With such appropriate clothes, the experiment must be a success. Proudly, she arrayed herself in them upon arrival at Mr. Andy Dunn's academy at the hour set. The close-fitting, rather scratchy tights, the scant and skirtless trousers, the light canvas shoes, the warmly enveloping sweater, and the rubber cap to keep her hair from interfering with her excursions. Thus appareled, Darcy quite esteemed herself as an athlete. She could already feel her muscular potentialities developing beneath the rough, stimulant cloth. She thought lightly of the various apparatus awaiting her in the shop, playthings of her coming prowess. She would show Mr. Andy Dunn what an apt and earnest devotee of the vigorous life could achieve. Thus uplifted, she went forth with a confident smile to meet the man who, for weary months, was to fill a large part of her life. At sight of her, Mr. Dunn, schooled though he was in self-restraint, barely suppressed a groan of pained surprise. That garb which had so pleased Darcy, however much it may have been an inspiration to her, was a revelation to the dismayed eyes of her instructor. To Gloria Greene, one of the few people with whom he forgot his reticence, he afterwards made his little plaint. "If they're fat, I can sweat 'em. If they're skinny, I can pat 'em with muscle. But this squaw, she's fat and skinny, all in the wrong places." Half hopeful that he might discover some disabling symptom, he tested her heart and her breathing. All was normal. He noted her yellowish eyes, her sallow skin, the beginning of a fold under her chin, the slackness of her posture. "How old are you?" he demanded. "Just 21. "Oof," barked Mr. Dunn, in a tone which unflatteringly suggested surprise, but also relief. "Well, we gotta get at work." How pleasurable was that hour's exercise to Darcy! With what delight did her unforeboding spirit take to the ways of hardy athleticism! Never could she have imagined it so easy. No sooner was she weary of one kind of a trial, dumbbells, Indian clubs, or pulleys, than, when her breath began to come short, the watchful instructor stopped her and, after a rest, set her to something else. Her skin pricked and glowed beneath the close but unrestricting suit. Little drops of moisture came out on her face and were gaily brushed away. She could feel herself breathing deeper, her blood running faster and fuller in her veins, her muscles suppling along the bones. She hurled the medicine ball with fervor. She attacked the punching bag with ferocity. She swung at the elusive little handball with a violence unhampered by any sense of direction. From time to time, she threw a glance, hopefully inviting approval, at the stonily watchful visage of Mr. Andy Dunn. The approval did not manifest itself. Darcy, had she but known it, was going through that schedule of the mildest type, known derisively to Andy's academy as the consumptive's stunt. At the conclusion of a trot 3 times around the room, which she conceived herself as performing with a light and springy step, like a 3-legged goat, was Mr. Dunn's mental comparison, that gentleman said, "Nuff," a word which later was to rank in his pupil's consciousness as the one assuaging thing in an agonized world. The regulation first days in catechism then took place. "How'd you feel?" "Fine." "Scud?" "Lame?" "Not a bit." "You'll stiffen up later. Don't let it bother you. Hot bath in the morning." "All right. Same time day after tomorrow." He busied himself replacing the deranged apparatus. "How's the appetite?" he asked carelessly. "It hasn't been so very good." "No? Try it on this." "Diet for Miss D. Cole" was typed across the top of a meager-looking list of edibles and what that young lady would have considered inedibles, which she found herself conning. "Is that all?" she inquired dismally. "Take as much as you want of it," returned Mr. Dunn generously. "But, I mean, it doesn't look very nice." "The big feller trained on it," observed the other with an air of finality. "What's wrong with it?" Why, well, monotonous," explained the girl. "There isn't a sweet thing in it. No cakes, no desserts, not even ice cream. Why can't I have a little sweets?" "Because," answered Mr. Dunn, "you got creases in your stomach." Darcy started. "No, have I?" she asked, vaguely alarmed as to what profound digestive catastrophe that might portend. "Well, haven't you? About there, and probably there." Mr. Dunn drew an illustrative and stubby forefinger thrice vertically across his own flat abdomen. "Look tonight and you'll see them." "Oh," gasped Darcy, turning fiery red, for it is one of our paradoxical conventions that a young lady may discuss the inside of her stomach without shame, but not the outside. Mr. Dunn regarded the blush with disfavor. "Look-a-here," he said bluntly. "Y'all needn't get rattled." "But I didn't cut the schoolgirl stuff. You're my pupil. I'm your trainer. That's all there is to it. If we're going to get along comfortable, get me?" "Yes," said Darcy. "I won't be silly again, and I'll try and mind the diet." Vastly to her surprise and gratification, the neophyte arose on the following morning without severe symptoms of lameness. Here and there, an unsuspected muscle had awakened to life and to mild protest over the resurrection. But on the whole, Darcy felt none the worse for her experience. She began to surmise that she was one of that physically blessed class, a born athlete. If beauty, vigor, and health were to be achieved at no harder a price than this, they were almost like a gift of the good fairies. The only unusual phenomena she observed as a result of her introspection were a lack of interest in her food, which she set down to the discredit of the diet, and a tendency to fall asleep over her work. She went to bed early that night, quite looking forward to the morrow's exercise. Nature has a stock practical joke which she plays on the physically negligent when they begin training. Instead of inflicting muscular remorse on the morning after, she lets the bill run for another 24 hours and then pounces upon the victim with an astounding accumulation of painful arrears. Opening her eyes on that second day after Mr. Dunn's mild but sufficient schedule, the one muscular movement she was able to make without acute agony, Darcy became cognizant that every hinge in her body had rusted. She attempted to swing her legs out of bed and stuck, with her feet projecting out from the clothes, paralyzed and groaning. From the bed next to Darcy's alcove, Helen Barrett heard the sounds of lamentation and tottered drowsily in. "Whatever is the matter, Darcy?" "I can't get up," moaned the victim. "What is it? Are you ill?" No, I'm all right. Only get your legs back in bed." The kindly Helen thrust back the protruding limbs, thereby wringing from the sufferer a muffled shriek which brought Maud Raines to the scene. "It's rheumatism, I think," explained Helen to the newcomer, "or else paralysis." "It isn't," denied Darcy indignantly. "What is it then?" Racked by all manner of darting pains and convulsive cramps, Darcy began the cautious process of emerging from bed. "Do be good," she implored, "and don't